Ladies and gentlemen, namaskar and a very good morning. Welcome to the weekly webcast from Kotak Securities. I'm your host and guide, Anindya Banerjee. Financial markets are showing Teflon strength, and this is not the first time. Yes, one can say central banks are behind them. One can say the economies are coming out of the lockdowns, which they saw a couple of quarters back. Yes, there is a combination of everything. But look at the recovery. After getting whacked 2 weeks back, over the past 7 days, equity markets are up anywhere between 2 to 4%. Commodities like copper and Brent crude are up between 5 to 6%. Though bullion is flat and the currencies are flat, possibly the currency market is waiting for 3rd of November. That's the date for US elections. So little less than 4 weeks to go. From India, the biggest positive story is this improving COVID situation. The daily new cases are steadily coming down. The recovery rate is way up, close to 86%. The death rate is low. And this is a story all over the world. Though one can point out to a second wave in Europe and other places around the world, but the fatalities are falling dramatically, and that is good news. Which means that economies can keep reopening, and that's good news for also the stock market. That's good news for emerging market economies and emerging market currencies like the rupee. That's bad news for the dollar. And various indicators like tax collection, throughput of goods and services, demand for electricity, and various other high frequency indicators are all pointing that there is a steady improvement in India. And India is actually benefiting from this hard lockdown which it did in March. So India went from, as if you do a scale of 0 to 100 to measure the economic activity. 0 means complete lockdown, 100 means at full pace. So India went almost from 100 to 0 within a couple of weeks in March, and since then they have gradually opened up. Now that is good because that it's consistently reopening, and over the next 2-3 weeks we will see again significant reopening as Maharashtra is opening up, a major economic center. So which means economic data will continue to improve, business optimism will rise, consumer spending will rise, consumer income will rise. So demand for white goods, demand for automobiles, etc., will show a steady improvement. So that's good news for the stock market again. That's good news for the rupee. Globally, two major news, all relating to Donald Trump. First, he caught COVID, but thankfully he's now out of it. He's back in the White House, so that's a positive development. Secondly, Trump has called off the stimulus talks which they were having, the Democrats and the Republicans, the two political parties in America. They were trying to strike a deal for a stimulus plan, but Trump has said no need for that. There will be a stimulus plan once the elections are over. That's the reason why the financial markets have not taken it on such a negative note, because anyways the stimulus plan is coming. It's just a matter of weeks. Coming to the charts, there's a very interesting pattern in dollar rupee. What you see is there is a broader downtrend, but market tends to go sideways after a sharp drop. The first one was for 41 trading sessions, then next one 35, and now it is 26 and counting. The broader trend is down, so any spike up closer to 74 is a selling opportunity. My positional target stays at 72.5 on the October futures, and stop loss is 74.20 on a closing basis. On the Euro-INR, the trend is downward. Only if it starts to close above 87, I will exit my shots. Otherwise, it's a sell on rise, target 85. On the GBP-INR, it's going sideways now. Between 94 and 96, it needs to break down below 94 to indicate that the trend has turned down, and it needs to break out above 96 to indicate the uptrend has resumed. Till then, it's a no trending phase, so maybe one can avoid trading significantly in this pair. On the yen INR, I'm looking at the level around 69. If it gets there and shows signs of bouncing, I will advise you to buy with a stop loss below 68.80 on a closing basis, and the target will be 70.30. The major economic data from India is tomorrow, RBI rate decision. Though the market is not really expecting the RBI to cut rates, but what will be watched is RBI's forecast on growth and inflation over the next 6 to 18 months. There will be a significant amount of uncertainty regarding that, and 3 new members have been inducted in the Monetary Policy Committee. So we'll get to see some fresh views. So it's a live meeting in that way. Generally, RBI policy decisions don't really impact the dollar rupee much. They have an impact on the equity and the bond market much more. Apart from that, on Monday, there is the industrial production numbers for the month of August. Yes, another contraction is expected. But the good point is that if you look at the PMI data and other high frequency, which I talked about, they are showing a steady improvement in the economy. But it will, for that to really show up in the industrial production data, that may happen with a lag. So it may take a couple of more months for it to show an improvement, because on a year-on-year comparison, it's not going to be easy for the IIP to just pick up. Inflation rate, the CPI is on Monday, and expectation is for the inflation to stay stubbornly high. Though this inflation is expected to fall in the coming quarters as we head towards March end. And finally, the export numbers scheduled for October 15th, Thursday. From the world, no major economic data except for the UK jobs data on Tuesday, and a second tier manufacturing sector survey called the Philly Fed is there. So that's it. With this, I'm signing off until we meet again.